Welcome to Churros and Chai,
the spot for odd combinations
and spicier conversations.
Today's topic is it culture or is it choice? Spicy. But first, mind meld. Right. Okay, so if you don't know what this game is, check our last video. You'll get it there. Okay,
ready? No.
No, you're not ready. Okay.
Okay, ready? Right. Okay. 3,
2. All right. 1, 2, 3.
Flour.
Pie and flour.
Oh, that's tough.
No, we could get there.
That's
pie
not
and
tough.
flour.
That's not tough, babe. That's not tough. Think about it.
Pie and flour.
You're just gonna have to be a little bit elusive with it.
I don't know, man. That's a tough one.
Don't take it too literally.
Pie and flour.
Just vaguely. Ready?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Apple.
Peach.
Oh, okay. I was thinking like apple blossom.
Okay,
All right.
we're still there.
Apple,
We're still there.
peach. We're getting close.
Okay.
Sometimes it's harder when it's close. Okay.
All right,
Wait. No. Oh yeah. Okay. I got it. All right.
1, 2, 3.
Fruit.
Cherry.
Oh, it's supposed to be fruit. They're both fruits. Oh no. Okay. Fruit and cherry. Wait, this is gonna take a while. All right. Fruit and cherry.
Okay.
I don't know.
Just go with it. Just
All
go
right.
with it. Okay.
1, 2, 3. Red.
Ah!
We got it. All right. That was sketchy for a second. That was rough.
I was gonna say STEM. I'm glad I went with it. That would have been hard.
Okay. We got it.
Okay,
All right.
okay,
We're
okay.
synced. Okay.
But now we're synced. We're ready for the pod. Okay, but let's just jump into it.
Yeah.
So today's topic is.
Well, we said the topic, the hot take. Today's hot take is we did kids last time. We're doing it again. Would you tell your kid that Santa Claus is real? Or let them believe Santa Claus is real?
Yeah.
Or would you tell them the dark, horrible truth?
I think I would let them believe it because it's just part of childhood in such a big way. It's just part of make believe and the magic of Christmas. It's just so much happier when you do. And yes, the letdown is rough, but life is rough. There's a lot of letdowns in life.
That's
you gotta
true.
teach them from when they're young.
You gotta let them down hard early.
Exactly. Let them know that their magic and their dreams are fake.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I think I would be okay with that to a certain age, I guess, but I don't know, because I'm biased because I was never told that Santa Claus was real. I was always told about the traditions of Santa Claus, right? And it was always wink, wink, nod, nod, but it was never serious. Oh, Santa Claus is a real person who's gonna come into our house and leave presents.
Okay.
That was never a thing, and it never took away anything for me. I always looked at other kids who thought it was real, but it never took away any of the joy of Christmas.
Okay.
So I'm a little biased in that sense, but I get it. I mean, I think it depends the kids' friends, maybe if all their friends believe it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
My family went all out. My father sprinkled reindeer dust on the roof.
Oh God!
And we actually I wrote letters
to Santa Claus.
Yeah,
so you
put
were
it in the
invested.
window.
You really thought he was out there just.
Yeah, I really did.
Watching you.
I really did. I wrote letters, put it in the windowsill, and yeah, it was so.
That's kind of cute. I could see the nostalgia and the cuteness of it. I don't know.
But the letdown was also real.
I bet.
Toughen up. Yeah, toughen Timmy up.
You've been lying to me my whole life. I don't know. All right, so you guys let us know. Put in the comments whatever
And
opinions,
the Easter
hot
Bunny
takes.
Too, and Tooth Fairy.
Easter Bunny,
let
Tooth
us know
Fairy.
about all that.
All right. So back to the show. So is it culture or is it choice? So I think we were talking about it. It's I feel like so many people think that all their perspectives, all their ideas about the world are their own or a choice that they made. But I feel like people don't realize how much of it is just your culture, your environment, the society you live in. And it goes so deep that the things you hold closest to you that you think you just know inside and out. And there's such a core feeling to it.
Yeah.
A lot of that's really just you absorbed it from the world around you, from the people around you, from your country, from your culture, from your family.
You were just told something, and because your parents were told something, and they were told something, and it's traditions and speeches and norms that were just kind of like whisper down the lane in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. So like, one of the things that showed that to me is like traveling. Like when I went to Japan recently, and it's such like little things that you would never think of, but like in the subways, like everybody, first of all, it's super clean. So coming from New York, the New York subway is anything but clean. And then like everybody just walked like on one side. Like it was very weird to see somebody like walking like on the left side.
Okay.
Everybody walks on the same side if they're going in the same direction.
Okay.
And like, again, coming from New York, that's like the weirdest thing ever because it's a free for all. Like sometimes on the stairs, like most people will be on one side, but there's always gonna be like a handful of people just pushing through and jumping down the stairs. Like that never happened the whole time. We took the subway a lot.
Yeah.
Never happened.
Yeah,
Everybody's same page. Everybody's
but that's like the quote that we were talking about.
Yeah,
yeah.
The
it's like
there's a few variations.
In like it's in the Japanese culture, right? I think that's where it comes from.
The one I heard
East
from
Asian culture.
Yeah, I heard the Chinese one, which is like the tallest poppy gets cut, and then like I've heard also like the tallest nail gets hammered down.
Yeah, the nail that sticks out.
Yeah, I'm not sure about exactly which one is which.
Basically, like the culture is so uniform, and everyone follows the status quo and the tradition of what's.
But like it's a good thing. Like it's like it gives like strength and comfort and unity and like efficiency and like for us in America it's so like individualistic here.
Yeah.
Like but that seems like almost stifling when you first hear it, but like over there it's like no duh, like yeah, this is how you get like the most out of everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is raising kids because in a lot of East Asian households it's multi-generational, so grandparents, the parents, the kids, great grandkids, they all live together. So raising kids is never an issue when the parents goes to work. But here it's like we live in a very individualistic society where if like you have to ask your parents to look for your kids, and a lot of people hire babysitters because no one like lives in the same household usually.
Like like the idea of family. I know like in Japan that's a big one. Like and also Korea, because one of my best friends is Korean, and like taking care of your grandparents is like not even a question.
Yeah.
And like the idea of like, you know, like sending them to like maybe like a home or something like that, or living separate from them once they get to a certain age is like weird. Yeah. Like it's like, especially if you're like the son, like you take care of your parents and your grandparents. Like everybody's like basically like looking to you for support. And a lot of these like, especially like, you know, far Eastern countries and cultures. And I think that's really beautiful. I feel like Dominicans have a little bit of that too, but not as intense, I don't think.
I actually just was watching something on TV about how stressed out adults are, like between like their 40s and 50s, about taking care of both generations, though, because it's like this generation that's I don't know, like I feel like in general, like the millennials and the older generation. Sorry. Well, I guess millennials and up. We just got hit hard by like the financial crisis and stuff like that. So like right now, those are the adults in the world that got hit by that, and like they're struggling to buy a home, but also take care of raising kids, but then also take care of their parents. So it's I think there's a lot of stress and like resentment that can come around raising kids and taking care of your parents. But I feel like in a lot of East Asian cultures, it's just the norm, and they're not as stressed out. They see the beauty in it.
Well, I was also reading, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was reading something about that. Like it's causing pressure, like in a lot of different ways, culturally, financially, like having that societal norm is causing pressure in a lot of different ways. But it's just normal for them, where it's like less so here. Yeah. Even though it's not weird to see somebody like living in the same household, like their grandparents and their parents and like maybe extended family and taking care of all of them, it's not like expected the same way. So, but like it does cause pressure. It is. I would imagine anyway. It's stressful, but it's just like, I think just in general, like how many different ways of like living and like seeing life there are. Yeah. And like it's so hard to imagine if you haven't been exposed to it. Yeah. And we're so set in like what we think is like normal or the right way. Yeah. But normal like really, really is a relative term. Yeah. In such a big way.
My therapist always says like everyone's following an invisible script. Like when you walk into a room, everyone knows like, you know, you close the door behind you if it's a meeting, and you you shake someone's hand and maybe they stand up to shake your hand and that's just part of the script, and then you both sit down and then you kind of maybe do some pleasantries and like, hey, how are you doing? Like that's just it's an invisible script. But maybe for other cultures you don't close the door. For other cultures you bow instead of you shake the hand.
Absolutely.
Or like you know it would be rude if you just go right into the subject of a meeting instead of asking someone how they're doing, or you know, just things like that. Like that, like we might think is super normal that like other people think it's rude. Like the first thing that comes to mind is whether you finish your plate or not. Like in some cultures, like if you finish your plate,
or if you burp, like burping is rude in a lot of cultures, but in other cultures it's like, no, that's like a compliment.
In what cultures? Burping
That's a thing. A lot. I think,
a compliment?
Absolutely. Like if you're at the table and like you burp, it's like, oh, you really enjoyed it. And the cook or the person who made the meal is like, oh, awesome.
Your culture, maybe?
No, not just me. I'm telling you, it's a thing. I think I feel like there was an essay I read in like school. Fish cheeks? Is it fish cheeks? I think it was about Chinese culture.
Okay.
And like how like they invited their friend who was like American to like their Chinese family dinner or something like that.
Don't insult the Chinese out here.
I'm not. I'm saying it's a thing. It's a
like,
thing.
Yeah, burping
and it's not just that either. Like there's a few places where like that's seen as a compliment. Like you see what I'm saying? Like how weird it sounds.
That does sound
but like
so weird.
In some places it's like that's not weird at all, and they would be like they would be confused if you thought it was weird. Like what do you mean? That you're just like it's a natural thing. You just burp. Like that means you ate well.
Yeah.
Like. And what's another one?
Like finishing your plate.
Yeah, finishing your plate
is considered
bowing.
Rude, but like I don't think they understand the context of that. Finishing your plate is considered rude in some cultures. Like if you completely eat every single Oh,
I thought you meant finishing your plate was like a compliment. I didn't know it was rude.
But what did you think the other side of that was?
Yeah, I guess I never thought. I thought you were saying like, oh, finishing your plate is like important because like if you don't finish your plate, you didn't like it.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right. Oh, okay. But you're
that,
saying
like in some cultures, if you like finish every single grain of rice in your plate and you clean it fully, that's considered rude because it's like, oh my gosh, like what, you have no manners, like you're gonna lick every single thing off your plate. Versus in other cultures, it's considered like
I didn't
if
know
you
that.
leave anything on your plate, it's like, oh, she didn't like.
Yeah, I never heard the first one. That's so cool. I never heard that.
It's like, oh, someone who doesn't have manners.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think even deeper than like that stuff is crazy too because like. I would be like for somebody to be offended if I finished my food. That would be weird for me. I wouldn't understand that.
It's if you lick every single grain off, but yeah. Okay.
I mean, that means I really like that. To me. But I mean, yeah. But even deeper than that, because we were talking before about Aboriginals in Australia. Some of those cultures, they don't even have words in their language for left and right, because they don't look at the world in left and right. They look at it as north, south, east, west.
Yeah.
So like, oh, hand me that thing that's to your east.
That's
like
so
and
weird.
but like imagine like constantly having an idea of like where all the cardinal directions are at any moment just to be able to communicate.
I guess that would make sense for how they were raised.
But that's what I'm saying. That's so crazy to me. But like it's also I think there would be some really cool advantages to that. Like most people in this country say like if the sun is down and you ask them which way is west, I'd be like, bro, don't even waste my time with that. I don't know.
Right.
Like, but to have that innate sense just because of a language thing, a culture thing.
Yeah.
Like, how different would you look at the world?
Right. That probably impacts so many other things
exactly.
too. Yeah.
Like, yeah, like I feel like people don't really think about. I haven't really thought about it like that much, but then when I take the time to, it like blows your mind. Like how many different ways to look at things are we missing out on? Because all we know is our own culture.
And we're just following our own script. But like, that's why it's so important to experience other cultures, because you've just been blindly following your own script. But there might be elements of other people's script that you might enjoy more, that might be more aligned with who you are, who you want to be. But like, most people don't do that because it can be uncomfortable. And also like if you were walking on the other side of the street in Japan, it's like you were also just going to be like the black sheep or the pariah of the group or whatever.
100%. And I did a few times, like before I got used to it, like I would just like, oh, I'm going down the stairs, let me just go, oh wait, then I see this wave of people coming towards me. I'm like, I'm on the wrong side. And like even at that point, like if I were like in New York, like I'll just duck under or hop over the railing and get to the other side. That if you do that there, they'll be like, what's wrong with this guy?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And just the slight little pressures that you don't even realize.
Yeah.
Like we have all of those in our own cultures too. And they're very like subtle in a lot of ways. Sometimes they're not subtle, but like all of these little pressures that just push you into this like normalcy. And that's what gives you that sense of comfort, I think.
And what's the messed up part about that? I don't know if this is too much of a segue. Is that like, because of how likely people are to follow something blindly if everyone around them is doing it, and that's part of the culture, it's in a lot of times a big opportunity for companies to capitalize on that. Which is like, where like if you think about so many things that have become the norm in our culture, but it's really just something that like was capitalized on from a company, like diamonds.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
engagement
that's true.
rings.
Yeah.
Like I don't think like all cultures around the world do engagement rings, like diamond engagement rings.
It's probably more popular now, but yeah, like.
But it became popular in like the 70s or 80s when
something
like one
that,
big company kind of like bottled the diamonds, and then marketed it as like, oh, if you love someone and you want to marry them, you'll buy this for them. But like that would never existed before, and now that just becomes so part of the culture that if you got engaged and you don't have a diamond ring, or if you don't have a ring, like that's weird. Like that's just, like, yeah, you know.
I think there were like gold bands before, and then engagement rings were like the thing.
Right.
Yeah. It was like Taboos or De Beers?
Yeah, De Beers.
Yeah, De Beers, yeah.
They bought up like 90% of the wedding rings.
And that's such a huge part of culture now.
Right.
Like you can't watch a rom-com without like a proposal with a diamond ring. Like it's
But isn't that crazy that like someone came up with that idea, an individual or a couple individuals, and now that's ingrained in millions and billions of people to now have this as part of their culture.
Yeah, that's true. Wow.
If you were to just like make up something that like the world would follow tomorrow, like something like not serious, like just something funny, like a rock is like a meaning of love or something.
I don't know. I feel like it would have something to do with food. Yeah, I feel like it would have something to do with food. Like I'm really weird about this is so specific and so random, but I'm really weird about making sure that if I had, like, let's say I have a plate with like 3 different things, I always make sure that I have like I proportion every bite so that I have all of it until the end. Like I don't finish one thing first. That feels so weird to me.
Yeah.
So like, I have like mashed potatoes and meat and like vegetables, and I just eat all my mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
I don't know why it seems psychopathic to me. So I would feel like that would be weird. Maybe I would make that my cultural rule. I don't know.
What?
Like if somebody does that, they're immediately a psychopath. Like
that's funny.
You have to have a full bite. Like that's the point of eating. I don't know. I'm weird like that.
Yeah, I know you feel that way about me putting the forks and knives upside
down.
down.
Oh, yes. No, that's the one. You got it. Do not listen. If you're listening out there, please, for the love of everything, do not put knives and forks in the dishwasher facing up, like the sharp side facing up.
I feel like it doesn't matter.
It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts because sometimes I won't even pull out the tray. Like I'll just see what I want from the outside and just reach it. And then if there's a freaking fork, it goes like, one time it went in between my fingernail and my finger, and it traumatized me.
I know one thing that you would make a custom that you're very niche about. So he thinks that if, let me know in the comments, he thinks that if you put wine into different types of glasses that it tastes different.
Listen, no, that's just a fact. Okay, listen, they make wine glasses and champagne glasses and all of the coupes for like cognac it's for a reason, okay? The shape of the glass matters, okay?
I think maybe so subtly, maybe it's like, but it doesn't actually, like, you can't, it's not like a black and white difference between wine out of a champagne glass and wine out of a wine glass or wine out of a mug.
Ridiculous.
It tastes literally
ridiculous.
The same.
Listen,
I feel like people who want to differentiate it are just being pretentious. Like they want to be like, oh,
it's different.
I can, the subtle notes of glass that you can taste when it's
subtle notes of glass. Nobody's tasting. The whole point of glass is you don't taste it. No, listen, it matters. Okay, look, I'm not gonna say it's the most important thing in the whole world, but it makes a difference. Like the smell of a wine, the bouquet, the aroma.
He's the same way with sushi. He swears that sushi eaten with chopsticks tastes different.
No, sushi with ramen with chopsticks. Ramen with chopsticks tastes different. Sushi you can eat with your hands, you eat it with chopsticks, whatever.
I'll eat it with my hands. It does not.
Listen, the slurp action, okay, is different with chopstick. You can't just do like a spaghetti twist on a fork and get the same experience, okay?
To me, it's like it's going into my tongue and then my gullet, and then I poop it out. It's the same process. It doesn't matter what utensils I use.
Okay, so next time I make you food, I'm gonna put it in a blender and say, "Oh, it's all going to the same place." Okay, you're gonna get meat sludge, and you're gonna like it.
God. Okay. Hot dog smoothie.
See, well, that's you. That's you.
We've digressed so far.
Yeah. Okay, back to the point. Back to the point. So I don't know. I feel like we were going through a little while ago, like, to all these different cultures around the world, and they're so different. Like, there's cultures where, like, you know, the beauty standard is like, how fat are you? Right. Like, they just eat butter and lard because the most beautiful thing to them is like being very like overweight. Yes, yeah. Or some places, like, not just overweight, but very specific kind, like pot-bellied guys. Yeah. Like the guys that have just a big belly, not like super like, you know, fat and everywhere, but just the belly. Yeah. Being big is like the hottest thing. It's like going. Did you see his belly? It's like freaking like, you know, so big.
It's that it shows that you have wealth.
That too. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And it makes sense. Like, that's what I mean. Like, we're so trained, but like, if you think about it, that does kind of make sense. Yeah. Like, you could say like a very fit, healthy, like slim kind of muscular body makes sense, right? Because, like, you know, you're very capable. You can, you know, like you can use your body in a lot of cool ways, and that has a sense to it. But also, like, being like overweight means like, hey, you have resources. You know, like, you can provide for yourself, maybe for others, like, you have excess, you know? Right. So, like, it makes sense in a certain kind of way. And, like, I think that's the point, is that, like, all of these things, you can find the beauty in them. You can find the utility in them and the efficiency in them. Like we were saying about, like, you know, like Far East cultures, like, yeah, they're more communal. They're less individualistic in some senses, maybe. But there's beauty in that, even though for Americans, that might be tough, or even for like people in like the, you know, the UK or in Europe that are a little bit more individualistic, and we really appreciate the beauty of that, like, you know, going out, being your own person, distinguishing yourself, and self-determination. That's beautiful. But I think it's also beautiful to have really strong community, right? So, like, I think it's up to all of us to make sure that we're exposed to these things, and then consciously take what we want. Like, there's always going to be an element that's subconscious, I think, that you can't really control. But, like, to the extent that you can, like, why not take a little bit from this culture and a little bit from that culture, and, like, not in like a kind of like, you know, like in a malicious or like, you know, outsider sense, but like the concepts of it. Like, just being like, hey, maybe it's okay if like I'm more communal in some parts of my life, or maybe it's okay if like I can adjust my own beauty standards in a certain kind of way, right? Like, I think that's good.
Like, I remember when I'm talking about beauty standards, the first time someone was talking about worldly beauty standards, and they said something like, oh, and then Americans paint their faces, and like that shook me, because I was like, oh yeah, I never thought about it, like, like makeup is, we're painting our face. And in other cultures, like, I don't know, like,
that's true.
In some African cultures, isn't it a thing to put, like, rings around your neck? And that is, it's a beauty, is it a beauty thing?
Yeah, it's a beauty thing. To lengthen the neck,
Or in some cultures.
Or like, piercings, or, I mean, you want to talk about painting your face, like, you know, look at, like geishas and stuff like that, like, this pure white, like, makeup, you know what I mean? Versus, like, the more Western style makeup, which is like very colorful sometimes, you know, like, like, hey, I mean, it's just different strokes. But like, I think you could see a lot of beauty in both, you know? Yeah. And then it gets even more extreme, like scarification. Do you know about that?
No.
Like, there's some tribes and stuff and some ancient traditions of like literally scarring your whole body. And it's like this rite of passage of becoming a man. And like, you know, like sometimes they do it like a big part of your body too. Like, it's like you look like almost like a crocodile, because you have all these like, you know, I forgot the name for it, but like when the scar like bumps up, like they make sure the scar comes out. So you have like all of these like scar bumps all over, and like different patterns sometimes, or like it's crazy, but like it shows your kind of like your stature, your manhood, your whatever, and like, that would be so wild. But then, like, also speaking of going to Japan, right? Like, they really have a very different concept of tattoos. Because I have two small tattoos. Well, relatively small. Like, it's not that big. I have one there, one here. Like, it's not a big deal here. I went to go swimming in my hotel that I paid for in Japan, and I go down. I'm in my swim trunks, and they're like, "No, sir, you cannot be in here with tattoos."
Straight to jail.
And I'm like, I've never heard this before. They made me wrap up my tattoos in like a bandage so that it wasn't shown. But like I was talking to my friend who knows a little bit more about it. He was like, oh, it probably has to do a lot with like the gangs that used to be around, and a lot of their stuff, it has to do with like tattoos to show like their rank or whatever. So like I imagine culturally, there's like this, you know what I mean? There's like stigma, this fear of like, oh, you have tattoos, like that might mean you're dangerous, or that might make people uncomfortable. So it makes some sense, even though like I don't want to swim with a bandage, but like it's crazy. So like how do you know, like, and does it even matter like how much of how you see the world is like an idea that you really came to or that you really have a foundation for versus just something you absorb through culture?
I think most people just live their lives kind of in that I'm okay with absorbing whatever I absorb type of mentality, because it is going against the grain and it is uncomfortable. Like I always think about my own identity because I'm Indian, but I'm Anglo-Indian, which is a very like small section of the Indian community that has heavily been influenced by British colonization and British culture, but then I'm also part Portuguese, and because Portugal colonized India, and then that kind of, it's just such a mix of all different cultures, and I get why a lot of people just want to stick to one culture, and because it's such a strong feeling of identity when like you're just so entrenched, and community when you're so entrenched in one culture versus being like, you know, segregated into like several different cultures. It's kind of, you kind of feel fractured in a sense, but in a sense it's also beautiful because I get to experience different parts of different cultures and different uniqueness, like a uniqueness that like being entrenched in one culture wouldn't have. But at the same time, I understand why people just want to stick to one because it's more aligned and there's 100%. More community.
I think we both, especially, I mean, like, you know, all the cultures you said, plus you live in America, right? And like me too, like I'm biracial Dominican living, you know, born in New York City, which is the biggest melting pot probably in the whole world. Like, I think we both have had a lot of experience, like wading into new cultural territory, which is, and I think just by necessity, we've seen the advantages and disadvantages of that, but like kind of have had to learn those new cultures because that's where we ended up. So yeah, it can be really uncomfortable. And I think for me, like, you know, having like Latino background, being very entrenched into like, you know, Black and African American communities, and also like having, because I spent also time growing up in the suburbs too, right? I was split between like New York City and the suburbs. I was split between like Black and Latino culture, and like so many different cultures that I've been a part of, and in, at least in some way, like got into a little bit. But like, yeah, you feel it a lot. Like you feel it when like you don't know something, right? Or like when you're like the only one who doesn't get this cultural subtext. And I think that like culture in some sense is like a evolutionary way to like create that tribal cohesiveness and a common language to like be able to tell one group from another, or to know, like, you know,
to
what you can depend on.
Belonging too.
Right,
like as
yeah.
humans, we just want a sense of belonging, and that kind of gives us that.
Yeah, so I think it's a balance. I think you shouldn't like shun your own culture. Like you should embrace whatever culture it is that you identify the most with. But I think it's also okay to let yourself accept or be open at least to things that might seem outside of your norms, and not immediately write it off. I think that's kind of how I think about it. Like, as long as you're not immediately writing it off, like, oh, well, you burp and you think that's good, ew, you know what I mean? Like, you can acknowledge, like, that's not my culture, but let me at least understand what that's for, because I feel like it all has some kind of use.
Yeah, I feel like you can see the beauty in most cultures. If you just understand, if you sit down and like talk to someone from that culture, like it's such a big thing in the Indian community to date within the Indian community, and it's, especially with religions all over the world, it's very entrenched to like, you know, date within your religion.
Not just India, everybody. A lot of cultures feel like
and I can see the beauty in that. Like we just 100%. Went to an Indian wedding.
We went to an Indian wedding,
and like it was so beautiful because you could tell both the bride and the groom shared the same culture, and they understood the same, you know, steps of the wedding and the chants, and the just, there was like a spiritual like connection they had because they both grown up in the same kind of culture. But then there's also so much beauty in like ours, where like we come from such different cultures, but like we get to teach each other.
Yeah, exactly. Like they had this tradition where there like the bride's family or friends steal the shoes of the groom and like negotiate to get them back. Like they get paid or they get something in return for like giving back the shoes. And like I had never heard of that. I got like read in like right before it all started, like the wedding started. But then they were like, okay, we want you to do it. And I was like, me?
Because you were the least suspectable.
Right, because usually it's like the women apparently, like usually like the bride's sisters or bridesmaids, right? So they were like, they're going to know and they're going to block us. So we're going to use you as like the inside man to sneak over there. And so I did it. I stole the shoes and it was fun. Like it was like, that's not something I ever heard of or that like initially made much sense to me. Like I was like, why are you taking these shoes for? Leave them. But like I did it and I got it because like it's like this game. It's like this kind of like, you know, this very lighthearted kind of play, but also shows a willingness between the sides, like both families, to kind of work together. You know what I mean? And to like settle some kind of difference. Like that could be almost like a practice for like family disputes between sides of the, you know, the groom side and the bride side. And I think that's awesome. It's like when you see cats like play fighting, right? They're learning to hunt, but they're doing it in this kind of like low pressure way. So I don't know. I think that's beautiful. I think that's really beautiful. Yeah, you learn so much.
And just you being at the wedding.
Yeah, me being.
Like now you learned something new that you can appreciate.
And oh my God, you guys, the head bobs were off the chain. Off the chain head bobs. I was watching conversations across the room. Can't hear a word they're saying. Understood completely. Just from head bob, just like a And there's,
so cool. And there's different types of head bobs
there's different.
Too.
That's what I'm saying.
And that's a culture within itself. It's a whole language. The head bobs are a language.
It's dope. Like I thought I've seen it like as jokes and stuff, but I didn't realize how intricate it was. And also like even though I'm not part of the culture, like it's kind of intuitive.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like, oh yeah, I see what I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. But I get the vibes. You know what I mean? He's like, don't worry about it. Like, no problem. It's like, oh yeah, you talking shit? You know what I'm saying? Like you get it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's dope.
Yeah, I think that's Indians. For Italians, it's like the I don't know, right, hands, a lot of hand.
Like this makes so much sense.
Right.
Yeah,
I've never met an Italian that just talked without their hands. Like that would be very,
That's so cool.
That is so cool.
So I think, you know, appreciating your own culture, really understanding the ins and outs, but also being open to cultures that are different. Yeah. I think it just lets you look in to so many different like parts of life and parts of the world and like understand people on such a deeper level. Cause like you really can't. Like you can't look at issues across the world, like if you're like reading like world news or if you're talking to one of your friends, like you can't look at the issues from the same direction, like from the same place. Like sometimes you need a little bit of that cultural understanding to really know what somebody else is going through or what the aspirations or the conflicts are with other people's families or countries or whatever. And I feel like that understanding is so priceless.
Yeah, because like understanding somebody else's culture is so priceless because it, like in a world that's so divided, like we have to have more empathy for each other and just spending 10 minutes or 15 minutes to do some research or to talk to somebody from a background that's completely different than yours can make you understand, oh, even though I totally disagree with it, that makes sense why they think the way they are. And like no one's a villain in their own story. Like we all think the way we do because of how we grew up or what we were taught or something like that. So whether it's like beauty standards or like, you know, cultural norms or how to greet someone, it's like, it's just, I think it'll create a lot more connective tissue in a world that's really divided.
And it makes you question your own stuff in a way you probably never did before, right? Like the burping stuff, like that kind of hit me in the head because like, or the finishing your plate stuff, right? Like it's so simple, such a throwaway thing that you could choose to never think about again if you want. But at the same time, you're like, like there are so many etiquette things that we do, like elbows on the table or like, you know, it makes you kind of like look at it for a second and kind of really appreciate your own culture too in like a way that and think twice about like how hard you go for some of this stuff because it's like, is that really me? Like, does that really bother me because I have a substantive issue with it, or does it bother me because it's just not what I'm used to from my culture? And I think you can approach those things different and like really like analyze yourself and like really know where those feelings come from because it can get deep, it can get political, it can get like, you know, into your relationships, and to at least, even if you don't change any of your beliefs about it, just to know where they come from.
Yeah.
If you wanted to change them, I feel like that's important. Or if you wanted to like double down on them, even like I think that's important to really know yourself. Know.
When we first started dating, there were some things that you would do or background, just stuff that just you grew up with. You do. Like, that makes no sense. Yeah. I'm trying to think of one. Like,
well, for me, one was the chewing.
What?
The chewing, the making
that's just a personal flaw. That's not a cultural thing.
But it is though, because like the reason I can be okay with it is because June, who's Korean, my friend, he is very loud when he's eating, and also they like I feel like Koreans also like a lot of times they're okay with like stuffing their mouth more than like I feel like Western European Americans, they like do little bites, and that's supposed to be proper and very classy. But like over there, they're just like
right, it shows you're enjoying the food.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So like it's okay. But like in the beginning, it was weird to me because like I feel like Dominicans in my family, like, that's a little bit more like on the European end of things, where it's just like no, be like little bites, keep your mouth closed, a little tissue. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we had some learning curve stuff, but I think at the end of the day, like they all become things that we can appreciate about each other.
Yeah, and expand our horizons.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, let us know in the comments like what kind of culture you grew up with, or something that's very niche to your culture,
or something that shocked you about a different culture, maybe. Yeah, because I feel like there's bound to be lots of those.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. That was good.
Yeah, that was
a good episode. All right, how do we sign off?
I don't know. Oh, Sia mangoes or something, right?
The mangoes? You want to do mangoes? Okay. Wait, why was it mangoes again?
Because it's Indian and Dominican.
Oh, right. Okay. Sia mangoes.
Okay. Bye.